Hi again. So we are going to talk a little bit about Chapter 8. Chapter 8 in your textbook deals with calories. We talk a little bit about energy and energy balance. This is where the math is going to start coming into play. So we're going to be doing some calculations as far as this chapter goes. So first of all, energy. In the world of nutrition, when we talk about energy, energy comes in the form of calories. So we have to ingest specific foods that have calories in order to produce this energy in our body. So a calorie is a unit of measure. It's used to express the amount of energy produced by particular foods in the form of heat in our body. Okay, so a calorie used in nutrition is the large calorie or a kilocalorie. So kcals are used interchangeably with that word calorie quite often. So a calorie is the amount of energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water, which is about 4 cups of water, from 15 degrees Celsius to 16 degrees Celsius. So again, in our world of nutrition, when we talk about energy, energy comes in the form of calories. And remember, our energy yielding nutrients are carb, protein, and fat. So there are 3 energy requiring processes in our body. So 3 things that produce energy in our body, inside of our body. So the first one is basal metabolism. The second one is our physical activity status. And then the third is dietary thermogenesis. So let's take a look first at your BMR, your basal metabolism. So that simply is the rate at which energy is used by the body when it's in a complete state of rest. So if you were to sit awake in a complete state of rest for a 24-hour period, your body is still burning calories, okay? So we all have different numbers as far as our resting metabolism goes. And the best way and the gold standard way to measure your basal metabolism is through what's called indirect calorimetry. And that's done in a clinical setting, so it's obviously something that you can't just do by yourself at home, but you have to go into a clinical setting and you'd have to stay there all night and do kind of like a sleep study basically, and they would measure your basal metabolism that way. Well, we don't all have that available to us, so we have come up with some different formulas that can help kind of identify, give us an example or a roundabout number of what our basal metabolism is. So for men, it's simply taking your body weight in pounds and multiplying it by 11. And for women, it's multiplying that number by 10. So now this is not an actual number. Obviously, there's going to be some variance there. It's about a 10 to 20% positive or negative variance. So you could be off by 10 to 20%, either high or low. And your basal metabolism also really depends on your level of physical activity. I always tell people that you can train your body to be a better calorie burner even when you're sleeping at night and when you're just sitting and resting by how active you are. So if you're very active throughout the course of the day, you're physically active, your basal metabolism is going to be higher than a person who sits at a desk all day and then comes home and sits on the couch all night. Their basal metabolism is going to be a lot lower. Okay. Another thing that can impact it is the muscle you have on your frame. So muscle is a very metabolically active tissue. So the more muscle you have on your frame, the higher your metabolism will be every single day. Okay. Another one is health status. Health status is a big one. So if we're, if we have a disease, a chronic disease, or we have diseased states, that's going to slow down a person's metabolism. And then lastly is genetics. Some people are just born and blessed with high metabolisms, and no matter what they do, it just stays high. Or some people have slow metabolism. So genetics has a lot to do with that as well. So those are some big factors that can impact our basal metabolism. And like I said, you can always train your body to be a better calorie burner by being physically active and engaging in resistance training exercises to help increase your muscle mass, right? Those are 2 great things that you can do to increase your metabolism. The next factor is physical activity. Now some people can be very highly active, some people can be moderately active, some people can be low active. So Normally, let me go back. When we look at basal metabolism, that accounts for about roughly 60% of our daily calorie burn. So about 60% of the calories you burn every day comes from your basal metabolism. Now next, looking at physical activity, that accounts for up to about 30% of your calorie burn every single day. So what we do is we can put ourselves into 3 different categories. So you would be considered inactive if you sit most of the day, you spend less than 2 hours of moving around, or less than 2 hours of standing. Okay, that would be considered inactive. So you would use 30% as a multiplier. So 30% of your basal metabolism calories come from physical activity. We would classify ourselves as average if we still sit most of the day, we walk and stand 2 to 4 hours out of the day, but we don't do a lot of strenuous physical activity. We would consider ourselves average. So we would use 50% of our basal metabolism calories come from physical activity. And then active would be, hey, you're physically active 4 or more hours every day. You do little sitting or little standing in one place. You're always on the move. You also do some physically strenuous activities. That would be 75% of our basal metabolism calories. So that's going to be factored in here when we do the math. So what I want you to do is get out a piece of paper, and I want you to calculate your basal metabolism first. So figure out what is your basal metabolism. So you do that by taking your body weight, and for men, remember, you multiply it by 11. For women, you multiply it by 10. Okay, and that's going to be your basal metabolism. So we're going to stop there and then move on to the third energy requiring process, and that's dietary thermogenesis. Dietary thermogenesis can account for up to about 10% of our total calorie burn every day. So again, when we look at those 3 energy requiring processes, you've got basal metabolism, which accounts for about 60% of the calories burnt every day. Physical activity, up to about 30% of the calories burned every day, and then dietary thermogenesis accounts for about 10%. So that's your 100%, okay, altogether when you add those 3. So dietary thermogenesis is when we eat food, right? You have to digest, you have to process, you have to transport, you have to absorb those nutrients found in our food. Your body burns calories to do that, okay? So that's where dietary thermogenesis comes into play. So that only accounts, like I said, for about 10% of your total calories burned every day. So if we look at this table right here, this might make it easier to understand. So going back, I had you just figure out your basal metabolism, okay? You took your body weight in pounds, you multiplied it by 10 if you're a woman, by 11 if you're a man, okay? And you got your basal metabolism calories. Then you have to factor in your physical activity calories. Now, again, I gave you those 3 levels. You've got inactive, you've got moderate, or you've got, active, those 3 categories. So this person used 30%. They chose that status of inactive, and they took their basal metabolism and multiplied it by 0.30, 30%, and they came up with 390 calories of physical activity is what they're getting every day based on their physical activity status. Again, you can use 50% or you can use 75% depending on what category you put yourself in. So what I want you to do is take it to that second step. Take your basal metabolism calories, multiply it by either 30%, 50%, or 75% to get your physical activity calories for the day. The third energy requiring process was thermogenesis, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your basal metabolism calories and you're going to add your physical activity calories to that to get a total. So in this case, they took 1,300 plus 390 and they got 1,690 calories. Then for dietary thermogenesis, they just multiplied that by 10%, 0.10, and they came up with, okay, I burn about 169 calories a day through just dietary thermogenesis. Then what they did is they added that 169 to the 1,690. Okay, and they came up with a total of 1,859. That is their total calorie burn. So every single day, this 130-pound inactive woman roughly is burning off about 1,800 calories. So what that is telling me is that she can ingest 1,800 calories and her body will burn that off based on these numbers. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is calculate those numbers for yourself and figure out where you are at. Okay? Moving on, looking at energy in foods. So again, we have 3 energy yielding nutrients: carbs, protein, and fat. So remember, carbs and protein contain 4 calories per gram. Fat, on the other hand, contains 9. And there's one other nutrient that we consume that contains calories, and that is alcohol. Alcohol contains 7 calories per gram. Okay, so again, if we're trying to lose weight, we want to think about where can we eliminate calories, and if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, that's a great way to eliminate calories from your diet. So foods that are high in fat definitely provide more calories per ounce than foods that are mostly carbohydrate and protein. Again, the reasoning behind that is because carbs and protein have only 4 calories per gram. Fat has 9. So if you look at these 3 foods, you got a tablespoon of margarine, sugar, and lean pork. Which one do you think contains the most calories? In this instance, obviously it's the margarine. You're looking at around 100 calories right here because fat has 9 calories per gram. This is primarily fat. So at 9 calories per gram, it's going to be higher than the sugar, which is primarily carbohydrate, only 4 calories per gram. So roughly you're looking at around 45, 46 calories. Pork, mostly protein, 4 calories per gram, so it's only around 40 calories. So definitely foods that are higher in fat are going to have more calories in them. Now let's do some calculations. So what I want you to understand is how to change grams into calories, because when we look at our food labels, it always tells you how many grams are in different food items. Okay, how many grams of carbohydrate, protein, fat. So the simple way to change grams into calories is, if it's a carbohydrate, you multiply by 4, because we know carbs have 4 calories per gram, so that changes grams into calories. So in this case, 15 times 4 would be 60 calories of carbohydrate. Protein, again, 4 calories per gram, multiply that 10 by 4, and you get 40 calories of carbs. And then fat, remember, has 9 calories per gram, so 5 times 9 gives us 45 fat calories. If we add these 3 together, carb, protein, and fat calories, you get your total calories in that food item, whatever it may be. Okay, that is how you change grams into calories. The next step that you're going to need to know how to do is to calculate what percentage of your total calories came from carb, protein, and fat. So if we go back, remember carbs we calculated to be 60 calories, right? And then the total calories was 145. So we simply took the 60 calories and divided it by the 145 and came up with 0.41. To change that to a percentage, you simply multiply by 100 and you get 41% from carbs. For protein, remember protein calories were 40, right? So 40 divided by the total calories again, which were 145, you're getting 28%. And then fat, remember our fat calories were 45. So we simply took our fat calories and divided it by our total calories to get 31%. So these 3 percentages for carb, protein, and fat should add up to right around 100%. Okay, so for this, if I were to say my percentage of carbohydrate for the day was 41%, but if we go back to the acceptable macronutrient distribution range, what was it? 45 to 65%. That is the recommended range for people today. So if I was at 41%, I would say my carbohydrate intake is definitely too low. I'm going to need to increase that with the right types of carbohydrate. Protein, remember the acceptable range was 10 to 35%. So in this case, I'm right in where I need to be. And then fat, anywhere from 20 to 35% is the recommended range. Okay, so you're going to be looking at those numbers for yourself and identifying, am I staying within those acceptable macronutrient ranges? Now, most foods do contain a mixture of all 3, carbs, protein, and fat. So, for example, if you look here, you've got some nuts, okay, you've got a potato, and you've got some rice. So, one of them contains 420 calories. Which one do you think it is? In this case, it would definitely be the nuts, because nuts contain a mixture, right? So we've got mostly fat, okay, because there's a lot of fat in nuts, but note that it's a good fat. So fat contains 9 calories per gram, okay, but it also contains some protein, which is 4 calories per gram. But because it contains more fat, that's going to bring the calorie content, even though it's a healthy choice, it's going to bring that calorie content up. okay? The one that has the lowest amount of calories is actually the baked potato, okay? Those are caloric bargains, and the rice is going to be just a little bit higher with the 205. So here, this is just showing you ways that you can decrease your caloric intake. So simple, easy things like instead of choosing just a taco shell, which has 4.7 calories per unit weight per gram, choosing a corn tortilla, which is only 2.2 calories per gram. So instead of choosing fried chicken, fried has 2.8 calories per gram, grilled only has 1.7. So this just shows you easy ways to lower your caloric intake but yet still have the same types of foods. And then lastly, energy balance. This is the theory of weight control right here. So calories in need to equal calories out. So if we want to maintain our weight, we have to be in what's called an energy balance. So your calories in, which is your energy in, has to equal your energy out. How many calories are you expending in a day? Now you just calculated this number for yourself, right? Based on your basal metabolism, your physical activity, and your dietary thermogenesis. That is your energy need. That's how many calories you're burning off in a day. So the number you just calculated is this number on the right side of the scale. Now you need to know what is your energy in. And when you do your personal dietary analysis, you're going to be figuring out your caloric intake, and then you can see where you're at as far as this energy balance theory goes. And if you want to lose weight, we need to create what's called a negative energy balance, meaning I'm burning off more calories every day than I'm actually ingesting, right? So if you calculated your calorie burn or your energy need to be around 2,500 calories, if you're ingesting 2,000, that means you're burning off 500 extra calories every single day, okay? And by doing that over time, that's going to create weight loss. And if that's a goal, right, we need to know what these numbers are. And in order to lose 1 pound of fat, you have to burn off 3,500 of these calories. So that's why weight loss doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process, but if we create this negative energy balance, weight loss will occur. On the other hand, many people today are in what's called a positive energy balance. We're ingesting way more calories than our actual body is burning off. Okay, so these numbers are key in understanding where we're at as far as this energy balance theory of weight control. So again, like I said, you're going to be calculating this number here on the left in the next few weeks when you do your personal diet analysis.